everybody. Welcome back. He is an Emmy award-winning actor you know from The Simpsons and Ray Donovan, and he now hosts the Jim Brockmire Podcast. Please welcome back to A Late Show, Hank Azaria. Hank, good to see you again.
Nice to see you too, Stephen.
Now, this is the people at home, unless they're keeping score, and I hope they are, don't know this, is that I have not seen you in over a year because you were the last guest that we had in front of a live audience before we had to bug out of the Ed Sullivan because of COVID, and we didn't know it was coming. All the protocols hadn't gotten into our bones yet, and I did something silly at the end of the interview without thinking. Jimmy, can we show how we ended the interview a year ago? Hank, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, come on. You almost got
Force
me.
to have it, baby. That's it. Do we have this? Can I see that in slow-mo? How close did I get to infecting him?
Close as I remember.
There you go. And oh damn. How has your self-protection gone this past year? Do you miss shaking people's hands?
I don't, actually. That's one, we're going to, there's upsides coming out of this pandemic. I'm like, I hope we all go the Howie Mandel route and just fist bump it out.
Fist bump?
Well, I have to glad hand so many people. Even way before the pandemic, I never loved it. And, I don't know about you, but I haven't been, this is the first year I haven't been sick a day.
Same
probably
here.
because I'm not shaking hands.
Same here. It's been terrible and lovely at the same time.
Yeah.
Now, it's been terrible for me, not only because this is a crisis and a tragedy for the world, but I haven't had an audience for a year. You've done a lot of live performing. Can you imagine have you had the experience of no audience and having to go out there and do comedy?
Well, I feel like I jinxed you a bit. I was your last guest, but I haven't. Well, I performed to some sparse crowds as an improv comedian with like two people in the San Fernando Valley. But
sure.
When actually I had a brief career as a stand-up when I was like 22, and although there were audiences, it was as if there was no audience because
Sure.
that's pretty much the response I got, unless you count crickets.
Sure, I've played that role. But so you did stand up briefly, but then you went the serious acting, well, not serious, but straight acting route. You got to work with some extraordinary people, including, I got to meet Mike Nichols once, but I never got to work with him. I've always been curious, what's he like? What was he like as a director? Because he's certified genius, but what was it like to actually work with him?
Well, Mike spoke like this. He was a lovely man, called me dear boy. And I think you actually have to sound like this if you're going to call anyone dear boy.
Sure.
And get away with it. But I first worked with Mike on The Birdcage about 25 years ago. And I was actually at the same time shooting the movie Heat that Michael Mann directed, the movie Heat with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro.
Sure.
And actually on my 30th birthday, this is 1994, I shot all night on Heat with Al Pacino in the fairly iconic "she's got a great ass" scene. I shot that all night as Al yelled that at me 58 million times because Michael Mann does 78,000 takes. And then went straight from that, and it was Al's birthday too. We have the same birthday, April 25th.
Okay.
And I went straight from the Heat set over to the Birdcage and shot all day. Shot 24 hours straight on my 30th birthday.
Wow.
And Mike noticed I was tired, and he's like, "Why are you so? You seem like you're dragging, dear boy." I'm like, "Well, Mike, I shot all night with Michael Mann, and in that scene with Al, that great ass scene, we rehearsed it, and Michael Mann is like the opposite of Mike Nichols. He's like this tough Chicago guy, he's kind of a street guy. And so Al walked in to rehearse the scene. Went, "All right, so Michael, what's happening here in the movie? What are we doing? What's happening?" And Michael said, "Well, Al, you just came from Bob," meaning De Niro. "You came from Bob, and Bob just jackpotted you, right? So right away you want to jackpot this guy, So you just jackpot him right on the desk there, before he can jackpot you, you know what I'm saying?" And Al looks at him and goes, "Yeah, I don't understand what that means. Jackpotting. What is jackpotting? I understand what it means."
I was going to ask the same thing. That sounds bad. What is jackpotting?
It means just to get over on somebody, to clock him, to get one up on him. I jackpotted him. I guess it's like a football term, maybe, I don't know.
I don't know, yeah.
So I tell Mike this story, and he finds it so amusing that for the rest of the day, Mike would call cut. He'd go, "All right, and cut. Are we all right, or did anyone get jackpotted on that one?" Which, coming out of Mike's mouth, I don't know whether I like it better or worse.
Sounds
It does.
classy.
Jackpot.
Well, now we have the Jim Brockmire podcast.
Yes, we do.
We've evolved to the final stage of human entertainment podcasting.
Yeah.
And Brockmire, obviously, for those out there who don't know, he's America's most beloved, disgraced sports broadcaster. And here comes the jacket. Here comes the super. It's like Superman's cape.
Not comfortable speaking as Brockmire unless I have the jacket on, Steve.
So what does Mr. Brockmire think about the MLB pulling the All-Star game out of Atlanta?
Well, I'll tell you. I think it's great, actually. I applaud it. As you know, America's pastimes are baseball and racism. So to see them face off like this, it's monumental. It's like Godzilla versus King Kong, a clash between two ancient monsters that simply will not die. But I am a little cynical about it. I mean, I don't think the MLB is now a social justice champion. They just don't want the bad press. Because if they had played in Atlanta, would have drawn a lot of negative attention. And if there's one thing that baseball is good at, it is avoiding attention. Anytime non-baseball fans start talking about baseball, an alarm goes off in the MLB office, there's a mad scramble to just shut it down, usually because the sport is becoming fun and entertaining, and they do not want that. But in this case, it was for a good cause, so I will take it.
Now, the Mets, I know that you follow the Mets. They've got a new owner this season, billionaire. What's his name? It's
Steve Cohen.
Steve Cohen. But is this good for the Mets?
Well, Mets fans are very excited. I mean, he just signed Francisco Lindor to a huge contract. You got to hand it to the man, Steve Cohen. He's really trying to make the Mets a winner. I mean, he's doing what all billionaires inevitably do. They succeed so much in life, too much really, to the point that to get that same thrill of victory, they have to take on a task that humanity has deemed impossible. Like Bill Gates wants to stop global disease, and Jeff Bezos wants to conquer outer space. Steve Cohen wants the Mets to have an infield defense. And, you know, speaking as somebody who's followed the Mets for years, I don't know which of those accomplishments would be more impressive. Because as I have said many times before, Stephen, the Mets are the Yankees of not being the Yankees.
Now, before Cohen actually bought it, there was a rumor that J-Lo and, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, A-Rod.
A-Rod.
A-Rod?
Alex Rodriguez.
Okay,
A-Rod.
I'll take your word for it.
He might be A-Rod.
I don't
but
know. I'm not
A-Rod.
familiar with the man. So anyway, Mr. Rodriguez, they almost bought the team. What do you think that would have been? Do you think that would have been a good idea?
Well, they're getting divorced, right?
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Forgot about that.
Well, now they've said publicly that they're working through some things, but as you and I know, that's celebrity speak for we can barely stand the sight of each other anymore. So, I mean, it would have been the most Mets thing ever for J-Lo and A-Rod to buy the team and then immediately get divorced. Then the Mets become like this sad child of a broken marriage. They got to split up custody of the team. You know, A-Rod gets Section 335 and J-Lo gets the pitching staff, and A-Rod gets to make trades every other weekend. It would have been such a nightmare. I'm amazed that it did not happen to the Mets.
Now, if I got to ask you something, obviously, as I've said before, the jacket is a superpower. In the podcast, since we don't get to see you, do you have the jacket on?
Oh, my attire has not changed. I always wear the plaid jacket. It's about professionalism, Stephen. And now, am I occasionally naked from the waist down? Absolutely. But sportscasters have always been naked from the waist down. You know, all you people out there who just started working from home, acting like you invented doing your job without pants on, are neglecting the proud history of people like Vin Scully, who spent 95% of their broadcasts half nude, with nothing between their genitals and the summer breeze. I mean, the first time I met Harry Carey, true story, he was walking out of the booth, all his bits were dangling free. He looked like a geriatric Winnie the Pooh. It's an image that will forever be burned into my memory. And now yours.
Thank you for that, Mr. Brockmire. Ladies and gentlemen, the Jim Brockmire Podcast is available now wherever you get your podcast. Hank Azaria, everybody. When we come back, Jeff Goldblum is going to help you do your taxes. Stick around.